Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 13 of Verdicts of the Ancient Kings New Parts for Old Wounds. A lot to go over in this upcoming week as there's been a lot of just really great releases on the upcoming Chronicles of Entrath Chapter 2. Adventure Zone number 2. There's going to be a lot to go over, so let's go straight into it. Alongside me is going to be Nico. Nico, how are you doing today?
Great. Hey, everyone. How's it going?
All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and dive into, last week's, or the past 2 weeks' particular puzzle and the puzzle results. It looks as though we got a number of entries, 8 total entries, and, why don't you go ahead and explain the puzzle results and what it took to get to that next level?
Sure. As you guys may remember, we went back to the puzzle to try to get people to find a different solution. What we were hoping people would find is that they could play the ambush guide on the opponent's end step after playing their change course. So they would, for the first change course, they'd pick an ambush guide or a Lady Devonshire. And then with the second change course, they'd either pick the ambush guide or Lady Devonshire, whichever one they didn't get with the first one. The ambush guide would enable them to play the Lady Devonshire because they had exactly 9 resources. And
Mm-hmm.
then at the beginning of your turn, before the draw step, Lady Devonshire's text would actually resolve before drawing. So you could put a life siphon that you would mill from one of the change courses from your crypt back into the deck. We realized after we wanted people to find out this puzzle that there's a bit of an RNG element because Life Siphon could have easily not been targeted by Lady Devonshire and changed course. Changed course may have been. So there was I think about 33% chance that Life Siphon would be targeted. And that was kind of the solution that we're hoping to get. So when you draw that Life Siphon after that start of turn trigger, you would then be able to play it copied for exactly 16 damage, and that was the solution we're looking for. So out of 8 entries, we actually gave entries to people that found a solution last week,
Mm-hmm.
and even people that found creative solutions in between. But the winner actually ends up being Atmos to fill, and the runner-up is Wastelands. I'm not sure how Crota wants to divvy up the prizes, but I think at most to fill, you can actually pick which merc you want out of the 3 super rare runs that he has.
You know what?
So
I think I'm gonna actually up it because we have a lot of codes to give away. So for the grand winner, since it is supposed to be a bit more grand, I'll give one of each to Amistophil, and then the runner-up gets his choice. So hopefully
uh,
there's no complaints there. Congratulations, Amistophil. I'll go ahead and send those codes off to you once you verify that's your in-game name, and I'll send those off. And then Wastelands, please contact me in game. Let me know which code you would like. Like it was Brozai Book, Portensio, and Gax the Sly Roller are the codes that I have. If you want a whole bunch of the Chronic Madness codes, I can do that as well. So yeah, let me know. And thanks for everyone. And please stay tuned at the end of this particular cast as we will be having another round of puzzles. I don't know if we can do grand winners every week, but if I can visit Hex offices very fairly often, we'll be able to up the prize support. So hopefully you guys are enjoying that.
awesome, that's a great prize. I'm impressed, and yeah, definitely keep doing the puzzles. For putting in the work, you're definitely getting paid back for it, and hopefully you're enjoying yourself while you're doing it as well.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that a number of the entrants out there who, like, you know what, they like doing the puzzles, but didn't think it was really worth the time to type it up and send it in. Hopefully, they'll be like, you know what, maybe it is worth my time to type it up and send in for these 3 mercenaries, which we still really don't know what they do yet. They haven't been spoiled, and like the market doesn't know how much they're really worth, which is kind of scary right now.
Yeah, I have a feeling the 3 that you're giving away are going to be quite valuable. Um, course, it is really hard to say. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. So moving right along, we're going to be looking at two Frost Ring Arena decks that Nico has been testing out. The first one is called Spring Widgets. Why don't you go ahead and well describe a little bit of this Spring Widgets fun?
Sure. So I'm actually playing it right now and having some trouble with an AI opponent while we're on this call. So basically, how it works is what we're doing a combo that's going to allow us to play endless amounts of widgets, and all you need to make the combo work is two warp steel widgets in play
Mm-hmm.
and one spring litter disciple. And how it works is every time, because we're running the trinket equipment for the warp steel widget, every time we have three or more counters on the widget, when it transforms, it'll create another widget. But the spring litter disciple says every time a one cost card is created, create a copy of it. So instead of putting one widget in play, we're putting two widgets in play. And if we already have two in play, we can chain it endlessly.
Wow. And
Yeah.
so you just keep on playing it and playing it and playing it, and you play one and then you generate two, and it just keeps on going like that. The Spectral Acorn being a free cost artifact definitely helps get that cycle going. Are there any other free art? Yeah, there's some other free artifacts in the game as well, right? So why didn't you include those? Just being curious.
Well, I do have spectral acorns in the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I do have a lot of things that create dreadlings.
Mm.
So what I'm using is all like the dread harvest and then my shoku charge power. So all these dreadlings are being created. So also whenever a dreadling is created, it's creating multiples for the spring litter in play.
Mm.
So there is, and then I'm playing Oberon's Eulogy with its equipment, and its equipment gives, as soon as you play it, it gives a troop in play the buff.
Mm.
So Oberon's Eulogy with Dreadlings is disgusting. If you haven't played with it yet, try it out.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I didn't listen to my own advice and stock up on Oberon's Eulogy back when we were talking about cards that could be on the possible rise. So they got priced out of my price range for right now, and maybe they'll fall back in after. Oberon's Eulogy is Shattered Destiny, correct?
It is the third set?
Armies of Myth.
I think so. I don't think it's Shattered Destiny. I'll have to double check myself. I think it's Armies of Myth, but I might be wrong. You might be right.
All right, so regardless, like Oberon's Eulogy, really, really strong card, and it's one of those cards that just snuck up out of nowhere. So I think that's going to be something we're going to be doing for upcoming sets as well, taking a look at some of those cards and then trying to predict where the meta is going to go, and just buyer lookout on cards that you may want to stock up on. Moving right along, we are going to be looking at a new type of elemental PvE deck that runs in the lines of Ruby and Sapphire, also running for Empress of Ice. What's the general idea behind this one? And I do not remember Haraza the Incinerator, so you'll have to tell me which champion that is.
So Haraza is actually like the activator for this deck because so the deck is doing a few different things. The first thing it's doing is it has this crazy powerful interaction with Bolt Spasm and Obsidian Cyclops, where you can play a Bolt Spasm on one, and then on two you can play a Cyclops for zero. The Cyclops will go into the graveyard, but if you put double damage and Swift Strike on your Obsidian Cyclops, all of a sudden you have a 3-1 Swift Strike double damage Bolt Spasm in play. Yeah, so that's pretty sick. That chest equipment for Obsidian Cyclops is awesome. So what Haraza the Incinerator does is for 7 charges, you need to have double Ruby Threshold. You get a banner in play that gives everything speed and +1 attack.
Okay.
So the ultimate combo for this deck is the Cloud Queen and the Storm Clouds.
Mm-hmm.
They when you play a Cloud Queen, it puts a Storm Cloud into play.
Mm-hmm.
if you pop a Cloud Queen, the Cloud Queen gives you 2 charges right away, and you can do it at quick speed. So very quickly, by the time I get my Haraza, the Incinerator charge power, which is usually on like turn 4 or 5, it's pretty early. I'll have probably 7 or 8, maybe even 9 or 10 Stormlings that I can put into play as well. So all of a sudden I'm attacking for about 20 damage in the air just with Stormlings.
Yeah, that looks much better than my Sir Giles Rowan. I think I did the same thing with all of those Stormlings. I just made them like 3/1s by, you can target the Stormling and then it makes all the other Stormlings really, really large as well and work out that way. So, and yeah, granting speed as well. Yeah, Haraza the Incinerator, Nico doing what he does best, making obscure champions just absolutely broken in PvE. So this does look like a fun deck. If you guys haven't checked out Nico's stream, Nico's always experimenting, and oftentimes he's able to find some budget-friendly variations. This week, he did use 4 Oberon's Eulogy and 4 Empress of Ice, so we'll see if he can go ahead and try and come out with a budget variation next week.
Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. We won't talk about it much more. I'll just say that this deck can probably work very well without the Cloud Queens and Kings, which are almost impossible to obtain at this point. So, yeah, maybe we'll come back to it with a more budget variation.
Yeah. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at all the mercenaries that were released in the past week. Singular, the 1/1 across the board. You can only have 1 of every single card, including resources. Including resources, not the standard resources, just the normal resources as well. So, what's your take on Singular? I believe you wrote an article on Singular.
Yeah, so you can have basic resources, as many as you want, but anything that's non-standard, like a Shard of Fate, any uncommon or rare resource, you can only have 1 of. In fact, I wrote the article on that, and Dino had to correct me because it was like, I thought I can include like 4 Karloff cobblestones, and he's like, nope, can't even include that. I'm like, oh my god, like this guy's hard to build for. So when I first looked at this guy, I didn't really know what to do. Like I was really confused. But since I posted the article, there were a few updates to him. So instead of you getting Rage 1 and Unblockable, now you get Range 1 and Spell Shield for only 1. And now the upgrade text for Rally the Rabble also says your charge power is reduced by 1. So your standard charge power, instead of costing 3, will now only cost you 2. So he's actually pretty good if you want to just play a deck that allows you to use like all of your best cards, especially if you have a smaller collection. And people may really want to play him for the party passive to put a random unique troop in your deck has +1/+1, especially beneficial if you're only playing like 1 unique in your deck that you can draw quickly. But other than that, he's going to be super hard to build around. You can see the deck I made. That's like a human unique based deck, but it's going to be interesting. Someone's going to probably find a way to quickly break this guy, and then everyone will be playing him. But I don't think I'm the one that did that. So we'll see. I'm going to test out the deck I posted on the Hex main site and see how it works. But I think there might be something better in the future.
Yeah, it's always interesting, especially when you look at all of these mercenaries, because it's a completely different way to approach PvE, and something that you think originally is like it's not going to be that great can be broken. And we have seen that, for example, the Dream Eagles and all of the Dream cards in the original Dream Dungeon, they had to be changed because it was just far too good. You could play everything for free from your crypt, and it was just too powerful. So we'll see if there is going to be some of those tweaks in PvE in Adventure Zone 2 as well. As we take a look now at Naryip. Naryip is going to be one of those mercenaries where you're going to be focusing mainly on troops. You can see in the deck building you have to contain at least 25 troops. The benefit, though, is that you can include 4 copies of any beast or gnoll in your deck, and there are some very, very powerful gnolls which we will be getting into, but the really crazy part of this is balance of the wilds. At the start of the game, each champion gets, while it is not your turn, your actions are all in all zones have cost +5.
Yeah, that is pretty wild. It's so crazy to me, like how they balance this game for wild troops. Like I just feel like wild troops and champions now just are so good. So it'll be interesting to see like what people build around this. The champion already has a very good health total.
Hmm.
He has a nice upgrade text as well. While an imposing champion has 5 cards in hand, troops you control have +1/+1. So there's ways to maybe play cards that will draw both you and your opponent cards.
Hmm.
Yeah, we'll see what this looks like. There are a lot of cool beast and nulls to play as well, as you had mentioned, and I actually there is a mercenary that is coming. This is a semi spoiler that will be beast themed that I did an article on. So there's a lot of cool beasts that are in wild that I know about from writing that article that can definitely go into a nar yip deck.
Yeah, so a lot of fun here, and part of the questions that I'm gonna have is just how how easy is it going to be to play with all of your mercenaries and get the necessary wins? Because you almost have to like bend your brain in a completely different direction to build for a specific mercenary. And I think deck builders out there are just going to have a lot of fun moving around and moving right along. We're going to be looking at Zorak, the Flame Hand. And Zorak the Flamehand is actually a mercenary that I was excited to see because it finally allowed the player to start interacting with those burning counters that we hated oh so much in the Victor dungeon or the Victor dungeon, just because it just seemed like I have all of these awesome burning cards that I can kind of use, and now Zorak the Flamehand comes out.
Yeah, the burning counters are going to be fun to mess with, and this champion is like Yodel, but it's allowing you to play mono Ruby Yodel. So that's kind of how I looked at him when I first saw him. I'm like, oh yes, now I can play a true Ruby burn deck and not have to splash into blood.
Yeah. The only downside to this is you cannot play any Mama Yetis.
Oh, oh yeah, because the baby Yetis are yeah, and no arena regular, and no Natmares.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there's a lot of champs that this particular deck turns off,
mhm. Yeah.
but I guess the upside is that it's super powerful. So
Yeah, I mean, if you're running a lot of troops in this particular deck, I mean, you got to be careful because the conflagration adept says is when an action deals damage to a champion. It's not non-combat damage. So the arena regular with the charge powers or activating your charge power or getting charges wouldn't add those damage counters anyway. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how all of this works. Cleave might become a very, very powerful card just because you can hit something that has 1 vitality and also give a burning counter and deal that 1 damage as well. So it's going to be quite interesting. And anything you have to add on Zorak?
no, not really. I mean, purging flames is great. Magma, like just anything that can deal non-combat damage is going to be pretty fun to play with here.
Yeah. Moving right along, we take a look at Lilith, and Lilith is your classic, what I would call wild ramp, right? Where you just want to drop down Jadim and play big troops as quickly as you can. She does have a relatively low life total, so what how would you approach Lilith in deck design? How would you approach and try and play around Lilith's upside and downside?
There's a few different things you can do here. One of the things that I think would be pretty fun is either go Wild Sapphire or Wild Ruby and play a bunch of 6 cost cards. Like, for example, because you can have 4 copies of any card with cost 6 or greater, that ignores all of the shard grid.
Hmm.
So you can play 4 Sun Soul Phoenix. You could play 4 Emberleaf Invokers. You could play 4 what's it called? Windsinger, the
Mm-hmm.
Sapphire Wild one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different ways you can go if you're playing 6+ cards, and then you basically are using Wild to just ramp. One of the other things, because she has a low health total, is you could also play Harvest Moons, and you can play the 6 cost Thorn Spear guy. That's like whenever you gain health, its cost gets reduced based on the amount of health you gain this turn, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So there's ways that you can definitely build into the ramp effectively. Dream Stag, Wild Root Dancer, Genesis Polnade or Naiad, and Puck the Dreambringer.
Mm-hmm.
So just there's a lot of cool ways to build the early part of the curve, and then for the late part of the curve, you can go in any direction you want.
Yeah, I think Puck is really gonna be that specific card, especially with Waters of the Genesis. When you gain a threshold, create a random troop with cost 6 or more, and put it into your deck. So you're gonna be having a lot of those really, really big troops that if you can get to them, you can exhaust Puck. All of a sudden, drop a 6 cost guy, gain another card. It's gonna be a really, really interesting, fun deck to try and play, and also the party passive a 25% chance to summon the bottle of Vitae at the very beginning. You may just want that as a party passive because you want to run it with a dwarf deck where you want to be able to transform that bottled Vitae if you happen to have it into a warbot on turn one, things like that. So this is going to be one of
Oh,
those
good point.
interesting
Yeah.
troops, right? So it goes across your groups, yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of the robot transformation, but definitely nice to have bottled Vitae at the start of the game. Yeah, it's only going to happen 1 out of 4 games, but if you're playing a deck that's already synergized around either healing or maybe some sort of artifact transformation tech,
Yeah.
that is definitely a great champion to have. Because that 1 out of 4 times is going to drastically increase your ability to win those games.
Yeah, we all know the importance of having a starting troop at the beginning of the game. Thank you, Ethereal Healer, for opening our eyes to what we can do in terms of speed runs. Now, moving right along, we move on to the Dingler King, and I don't know. This just seems like the type of like for the type of person who wants to shoot themselves in the foot and then say I ran a marathon. I can't explain it any other way. What's your take on the Dingler King?
That's a good way to put it, I guess. I don't know. Like he might be a step above Singlair, at least in terms of how you build a deck.
But
Um,
9 health, man, 9 health.
yeah, I know 9 health is horrible, but he does have one of the coolest upgrade decks, like exhaust 10 Dinglers you control and transform target opposing champion into a Dingler. Like
But
that just screams hilarious, and they're going to be a 0/1 champion that you can just scorch and will die. So I don't know, that could be pretty huge, especially if it works against like raid bosses in the future. So I don't know. I'm not. I think I'm gonna still reserve judgment on whether or not that's good. I would definitely like splash all the colors of the rainbow to try to get some healing in there, because 9 health is pretty horrible. But yeah, I don't know. He could be really fun to play. It's gonna require some ingenious deck building and a lot of balls to run him consistently.
yeah, definitely. I just saw him like yeah. I don't know what else to say. I'm like, how do you get dinglers? Like, is there actually going to be like? Can you include dinglers in your deck now? Is that going to be a card in a future set? Like, hey, I got a dingler. Like, I don't know.
I don't even know if I'd play it if it was, but it'd be pretty funny.
All right, moving right along, we have Gordon Boomcushion, another PVE mercenary, and yeah, well, just we still have so much to go through. So, what's your take on this on Gordon Boomcushion?
He's solid. He also has a little bit lower health than I would like. Um, I think I was actually thinking of his upgrade text when I was talking about Zorak, but yeah, he does +1 non-combat damage to opposing champions. He doesn't have the downside that Zorak had, so you can include your 1 health pingers like the Ghostblade Duelist, like your Arena Regular.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he's going to be really good. He probably will be a little bit more fun to play than Zorak, and he offers you a good amount of artifacts to play on top of Sapphire, Ruby, and Blood. So it'll be interesting to see how people kind of build this guy. I don't really like him for his party passive so much, but other than that, I think he's pretty solid.
Yeah, I looked at explosions make everything better, and I immediately thought like interaction with crowd roars. You could play a crowd roars, and then it goes to your crypt, and you can come back. You can play it again. You have so many actions that can just be sitting in your crypt that you can play multiple times. Obviously, cards like Ragefire Escalation won't be in your crypt, but there may be other ways that you can get high damage dealing cards. Direct damage cards into your crypt and then play them 2, maybe even 3 times in a turn. The first time for free, and then the second time, just constantly getting more and more cards. So definitely a direct damage. Also, upgraded text, opposing champions take an additional +1 non-combat damage. Just really synergizes with explosions, make everything better.
Yeah. I think this mercenary will see a lot of play, more so than some of the others we have seen.
Yeah. All right. So that is the end for that for mercenaries. Now we move on to warrior tier 2 and the new talent tree. What was your take on the new talent tree? We only get 6 additional talent points to spend since we're going from level 9 to is it 6? Yeah, 0 counts as a number. So from level 9 to 15, and they're opening up some of these I guess Banes that would be in your deck, the old War Rune, and the actually, is it technically a Bane? Can you remove the Bane?
Not that I know of yet. There's probably a way to do it. I don't know. We might see future cards that allow us to take them out of the deck somehow.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, I think that right now it's going to be like drawing a booby trap. You're going to take the damage.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to not get to draw another card, and it's going to kind of suck. But they do allow you to have 2 additional talents if you
Mm-hmm.
choose to take both of them. So we can see the Banes here on this particular slide. It's old War Runes that you lose half of your health rounded down. And then the other one is when this enters your hand, add 5 days counters to yourself, which will you basically lose 5 turns,
Mm-hmm.
or you're behind a turn for 5 turns. And in a warrior deck, that can be pretty brutal. What I do think about the tier 2 for all classes is I got a little bit of clarification on the talent thread from one of the HXC employees, and they said that the talent tree is going to open up to us as soon as we hit level 10, but that doesn't mean that we need to put 9 points into prior talents to start putting points into the tier 2. So
Mm-hmm.
we could technically just bounce up to the tier 2 with our points right away, and then just take as many talents as we want in the second tier once we've unlocked it. So you might see a lot of people just running up the tree really quickly and specking into the top tier talents as soon as they can.
Well, from what I understood, it was actually you actually had to like tier up there. So the only way you could unlock the gems was you had to take the middle path to get to the gems. Is that not the case?
No,
Or
that still is. What I'm saying is there are some other games like Diablo-esque games where you put points into your talent tree, and you cannot go to the next tier of the talent tree unless you have a certain amount of points in the prior tier.
mm,
It's not going to work that way,
mm-hmm.
but you do have to still go up to it. Whereas, like, if you wanted to get to the gem slot, you'd still have to go up the middle path to get there.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have to have any sort of prerequisite in the prior tier to get to the next tier,
All right.
besides the level cap.
All right. Another quick question, just because I don't know for certain. Can you go up and then come back down?
Yeah, sure. As long as you have talent points, you can spend them in any way you want.
Mm.
And there is, the connecting paths. I guess they made the Ranger class in a way where all the paths connect. So you can easily, take something to the left, to the right, to the top, from the point that you're currently on. But for warrior, you can see how some of the paths are blocked off. So,
Hmm.
if you go on the right side, you're not going to be able to swing right across to the left. You might have to zigzag up or something.
Hmm. All right, so going to be interesting. Also, looking at some of the other classes as well. We still don't know about cleric. We still don't know about mages. So we'll see what's going to be happening there. But so far, the warrior and the ranger reveals have been great and welcome news. As well, they also kind of released another sort of talent tree in the set sail portion of the boat and the sea. So I've seen pictures of the sea, and I have an idea on how it's supposed to work now. Now that they've talked a little bit, but I wanted to get your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, when they first announced this, I was reading it. I'm like, what the f is this? Like, came out of nowhere. Like, I didn't know what was going on. Like, okay, we're gonna be on a boat,
Hmm.
and our boat is gonna be able to have talents. Like, this is weird, but it's pretty cool. And I've seen other people say the same exact thing. So it's weird but cool, and I'm looking forward to it. I have no I have no freaking idea like how to begin to like um, di- distill this, but it's going to be interesting. I did see one of the spoiled buffs as like I think the captain's parrot gets another one shot ability that says target 2 cost troop in your deck gets its cost reduced down to 0, or and then you can draw it or something. So that's why I put the photo of the war party guide there, just saying like, "Hey, bud," because if you put like all ardent troops in your deck with the war party guiding cover, you
Hmm.
can draw out your entire deck and just destroy
Well,
anything.
wait,
But
wait, wait. So you didn't read the first mate talent?
is that the one I was talking about? The
Oh,
first mate talent?
okay. So the first mate talent says, at the start of the game, put a random 2 cost uncommon troop from your deck
Oh, that's
into
right.
play.
That's
So
right. Okay,
so
that's how it works.
if the war party guide is the only 2 cost uncommon troop in your deck, he immediately enters play. And uh, with the equipment, his equipment says when you attack, if the top card of your deck is an ardent troop, instead of drawing it, it immediately enters play
Yeah,
and then do it again.
yeah. So I got the gist of how that chain would work, and it seems pretty ridiculous, especially because you can play like a 0 resource deck and just put everything into play in a single turn. But I don't know. I feel like they're gonna have to nerf that, right? Like
Yeah,
they can't keep
yeah.
that in the game.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they're gonna have to make some sort of change. This is gonna be one of those things where they can't let it stick around. I mean, having a war party guide and essentially what your set sail deck is gonna be is 56 ardent troops and 4 spectral acorns, just so you don't deck yourself. Is what I
Yeah.
expect it to be. So yeah, you're gonna have to be very very careful, but it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll definitely try to play that, and it sounds so busted, but I guess it's worth giving it a spin until it gets nerfed.
All right. Now, what I am about to say is complete speculation. I've only seen like the movement grid on on the sea itself. I don't have a good understanding of how it works, but based on the article and the quote unquote pressure luck sort of atmosphere, I'm kind of wondering if you can just like infinitely sail around the sea until you hit a random boss encounter.
Interesting. Yeah, that might be possible.
And based on some of the card images that we will be looking at, I wouldn't be surprised if we see the kraken that lives in this sea. So like kind of like we have the Frost Ring Arena and we have like the hunt for
Urnas.
Uranas, right? Are we going to have like this pressure luck like I'm gonna try and swim around and sail around the sea until I can take down the Kraken. That's what I'm hoping this is going to be. This is pure speculation, but between what I've seen and what the official article with that press your luck statement, I would hope that they would be creative enough to set sail on the open seas as long as you want, and maybe the longer you're on the sea, the more difficult the encounters become and the better the rewards.
Hmm. That would be interesting. Yeah, I mean, I think that might actually be a potential, and then people will no longer have to play Frostring Arena anymore, which I think is kind of what they want until they have more time to actually go back in there and tweak things.
Yeah, I think all of like the downside the Frost Ring Arena right now is the only thing that's exciting is gold and dust because everyone has all
Yep.
the cards and everyone has all the equipment. So, like you just scan through, you're like, oh, I got two Zakois. Well, I really wanted dust, and you kind of just run it through again. So we'll see how that goes. All right, let's move right along. We can speculate about what the sea is gonna be like for a very very long time, but I wanted to talk about last week's Cinder clone offensive that we had. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say. I threw it under the bus. Like I read it, I'm just like, it's a weaker version of Mirror Mirror in every way, shape, and form. Why would you ever want to use it? And then people started theory crafting and they said Cinder Clone Offensive with the Arcane Spirit Sprite Gang and the Rending Hammer with the crowd roars. And my head just started spinning. And like, this is a true infinite combo that you can just one turn destroy your opponent if you get the right cards.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's pretty bonkers because you can just keep playing the arcane sprite gangs and or arcanic sprite gangs and just end the game like instantly. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how many people start to play around with that and get the combo to go off.
Yeah, it's gonna be expensive, and for all of you guys out there, be on the lookout for mercenaries that have full ruby and sapphire shard grids, because you may want to try and run four of each of these and see if you can get it to go off. Also, what Gorefeast would also be probably a good addition if you can get Voice of the Ashwood to start escalating fast enough, and then get all of this to proc. But yeah, anything you want to add? I do apologize, Cinderclone Offensive. Thank you for Hex Entertainment for giving us such a wonderful card to spoil from last week.
Yeah, nothing I want to add. I mean, I knew that there was combo potential there. It's it's not to say that that's the best combo ever, but I think it's actually really cool because of the granted speed. So and then the also the all of the equipment works out and if those three cards are played together. So that will also be a combo that's probably a little bit easier to pull off than some of the other ones where one equipment piece might be shared by two of the pieces.
Mm-hmm. All right, moving right along, there were some other additional spoilers that were released. The Scrap Tooth Cyborg was one of those cards that was released today, and this is a robot null. So, if you guys may remember, we had shared a card that allowed you to run four nulls in your deck, and the Scrap Tooth Cyborg is definitely. Well, that Death Cry looks absolutely, absolutely bonkers in any sort of Dreadling deck.
Yep, Dreadlings with Hideous Conversion would make this card pretty bonkers. You could play any kind of robot tech too. Besides just Dreadlings, you know, you can play a standard robot theme where, you know, this cost for this might go down based on other robots you have in play. Um, and then just being able to deal damage to opposing champions and opposing troops for the number of artifacts you have in your crypt with the enhanced boots make this even more valuable to just use as a finisher card. And it doesn't remove everything from your crypt, which is a little bit better than Purging Flames because this effect can just continually happen over and over again as long as you can keep cycling your Scrap Tooth Cyborg into play and then into the crypt.
Well, looking at the Scrap Tooth Cyborg, even if you can just copy it with the Cinder clone offensive, you don't even need to attack with it. And then at the end of the turn, you sacrifice it. It procs the Death Cry. So anything that is,
No,
it,
that's dirty.
yeah, that's absolutely dirty. You if you have what 10 artifacts in your crypt, the Cinder clone offensive, you just you make copies of it. You swing, they block, they die. They don't block, they die.
Yeah, yeah, that's a pretty good combo.
Yeah, so there's a lot to play with. Let's go ahead and continue down the line. Spoiler hype for Drag to the Depths. That particular card right there was what made me believe that the Kraken
Oh,
is.
you passed up Cerebral Jackhat, man.
Oh,
That card is great.
all right. Oh well, I go ahead. Talk about Cerebral Jackhat.
So it's just a 2-drop artifact, but it says when it comes into play, basically, put 3 charge counters on it,
Mm-hmm.
and you can exhaust it right away. And for each charge counter, you get to draw a card, basically. So exhaust it, remove an energy counter, draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Crazy if you can find a way to bounce it, because then you'll get another 3 charges. There's also Dwarven Turbine, I believe, that has equipment that says you exhaust Dwarven Turbine for free and ready target artifact. So you can combo it with this to ready it and draw another card. Really well costed card draw on an artifact that can be used in almost any deck. So I think it's going to see a lot of PvE play.
Yeah, I'm interested at what this is really gonna do. I was thinking about other ways to try and use it. I was like, oh, how does reversion work with it? Reversion obviously doesn't because the deploy adds the energy 3 counters. So if you revert it, it actually has no energy counters. So that's actually what you don't want to do. But yeah, bouncing it will definitely work as well. And yeah, like I don't know, it almost feels like all of PvE is becoming this very, very hyper, like super efficient ways to build all of your decks and all of the combos. And I'm interested to see how Adventure Zone 2 is gonna try and get games to last longer than turn 4. When you're going up against the computer and trying to figure out all of these puzzles and figuring out other different ways to win. So, what are your takes on? I guess armor it would be one of the ways that they would do that. Any other ideas?
Hmm.
Or shell? I should say shell, not armor.
Yeah, Shell is a good one. I'm really not sure what they're going to do. It seems like it is going to be more difficult, but they're just going to give things more health. I think they're going to potentially make more things not deal full damage when they attack, whether or not that's armor or if it's just reducing everything's attack to 1 or 0 when they attack for the turn, or some sort of mechanic where after something attacks, it loses 2 attack, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see how things work. I like the Chain Goliath where it wasn't about how quickly you could beat them down, but about setting up. So hopefully there is going to be other ways, and we'll hopefully get to see more of the RPG elements and the MMO elements in the PvE campaign. Moving right along, more spoilers. Looking at Drag to the Depths. As I mentioned, this is the card that made me think that the Kraken could be released, so to speak, in this particular set. And well, Gorilla Pounder, Ants at a Picnic. So I guess some fun cards. What's your take on all of these?
There's combo potential with Drag to the Depths. I've thought about it a little bit. I think it could be really good with a self-mill theme deck.
Hmm.
So we might see some play there, and you can probably find a lot of ways to cheat it into play, so you don't have to pay it 7.
Hmm.
Gorilla Pounder, revert target card for feet is pretty nice on deploy, and it has the +4/+4 and crush one shot for I think it's just 1 cost.
Hmm.
So that's pretty awesome. And then the Ants at a Picnic has a lot of combo potential with the wild socket that gives you 1/1 resource.
Hmm.
Because if you're losing a permanent resource, you can also gain a resource on the attack with a troop that has the resource gain. So there might be a way to just always put an army ant into play. It could be a good late game strategy. So it's more of a fun card. Army ants aren't that great. I think they're a 3/2 crush 4-cost card.
Hmm.
So I don't know. Like it's gonna more be for fun than anything else.
Yeah, I'm wondering if is there going to be some sort of encounter where it's not about how strong your troops are, but just about the sheer number of troops that you need to have on the field in order to beat a specific encounter. Things like that. I absolutely have no idea how all of these cards can be used, and if they can even dream up a scenario where you really need ants at a picnic. That's never.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah.
even. That's not a
I can't
sentence I
think
would
of it
say.
either, but it'll be interesting to see what people come up
Yeah, I'm like, that's a sentence I never thought I would say. How can we use ants at a picnic? All right. Now, finally, for everyone who waited until the very end, we do have a new puzzle for you. And I haven't even looked at this. I don't know what this is yet. So why don't you go ahead and talk about this? There seems to be a lot of cards, a lot of thresholds going on.
Okay, so I worked on this with Yule, but this is brought to you by Yule, who actually created the last puzzle as well. And he spent a lot of time on this to kind of get it right. And there may be, I think we narrowed it down so that there is only one solution, but you may be able to find two solutions. So I don't really want to give everything away here, but I'll help you decipher his nifty little text here. So the enemy is blocking thee. This turn you must bring victory. Blockers declared. What do you do? With blackjack damage to push through. No cards in the deck and 1 life point. You surely will not disappoint. Resources 5 and Yemen's flag. Enough the enemy to scrag. How will you last? What do you cast? What are the cards? Win the rewards. So he shows you the hand. He shows you the board, and it's very important to pay close attention to the text and the damage and defense on the troops, and then also the thresholds that you have. So you will be able to cast everything in your hand. You do not need to draw anything in addition to the cards you have in your hand. You only have 5 resources. The enemy is at 21 health, so you need to deal 21 damage. They've already declared blocks, so that's not changing. And you need to win on this attack. So figure out the puzzle, send me your entries. Hopefully this one's a little bit easier than the last one. And if you find a second solution, great. And we of course will give out awesome prizes. So we will update everyone next Monday on whoever got it right.
All right. Well, from everyone in Cornerstone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Anything else to add?
No, man, I'm like getting burnt out. There's so many spoilers. Like, hopefully, we get a release date soon so we can dive in. But I think we're gonna be overwhelmed for a long time to come. It just seems like there's so much to sink our teeth into.
Yeah, there's still a lot to digest, and I made a prediction that I think we're gonna hear a release date probably before we have our next cast, but that is just my own that's just my own hopeful thinking. So from all of us here, thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we hope to see you in the world of Entrath.
See you next time.